Good night and welcome to Mindful Life 397. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is currently the 18th of the 5th month in the year 2024, 18th of May. Thank you. We need foreign investment in this country. The leaders need to take some responsibility, AJP says. I think we have a lot of foreign investment in the country also. But once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen out there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button there. You hit that screen 2 taps quickly, pop, and allow the like button to feel your presence, because it's how we allow the algorithm to know this is some good stuff. That's what we're doing. We're telling the algorithm, hey, good stuff, make sure you send it out to as many people as possible. That's what we're doing, talking to the robots by hitting that like button. If you're over on YouTube too, you do hit that like button as well, and drop a comment if you have something to say. I'm streaming live on TikTok and on YouTube. If you ever miss any of the lives, feel free to head over to YouTube, Nathan Springer out there on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to me over there. Catch all of these lives, all 396 other lives. I think a couple, 1 or 2 here or there might be missing for one reason or the other, but the vast majority of them are right there for your viewing pleasure. So jump in over there and make sure to follow. All right, the first story we're diving off with today is an interesting one. I think it sets a kind of precedent. Curious precedent in our country. Let's look at this. State held liable for domestic violence victims' murder. State held liable for domestic violence victims' murder. A 60-year-old woman from Carnage, whose daughter was brutally murdered by her abusive ex-boyfriend in late 2017, has won a landmark case over the failure of the police and the judiciary to afford her protection. In a 110-page judgment delivered yesterday, High Court Judge Robin Mohammed upheld a novel constitutional claim brought by Tot Lampkin against the Office of the Attorney General in relation to the murder of her daughter Samantha Isaacs. In his ruling, Justice Mohammed decided to take a bold move to impose a positive obligation on the state to act with due diligence in protecting an individual's constitutional rights to life, protection of the law, and respect for private and family life from being violated by the actions of a non-state official. This is very interesting. Very interesting. What it seems to suggest. Good evening, Dane Khan. It's nearly, I remember a while ago, was it Dane Khan self? A while ago, someone in one of the lives asked if it was possible for us to file a writ of mandamus against the government, basically to force them to do their duty. This seems to be something along that very same line, where basically the judge, the court, is saying this is the government's job to protect people's life. Protection, rights to life, protection of the law, and respect for private and family life. And if someone deprives you of such, and you can prove the state didn't take positive action to protect you, they are responsible. That's interesting. Now, the thing that also makes this even compounded on the interest is that it isn't a Let me read the details of the case before I get myself in trouble reading here. According to the evidence in the case, Lamkin's daughter began a relationship with Karim Garcia while she was pursuing a degree in biochemistry at the University of the West Indies in 2011. Now, to start off, that first little paragraph there. Regularly, I remember recently a young lady was murdered, and she was gainfully employed at a banking institution or something like that. And there was a report that possibly she was involved with someone in the criminal underworld. And people were like, oh my goodness, someone with such a good employment history. What they doing with that kind of guy? And listen, many people have the wrong impression that bad men, gangsters, those guys out there, they only get the stragglers of the females. That's wrong. Many decent women are very attracted to criminally minded men. You are more likely to be a father if you are a felon. By the way, Abu Friday, luxury on the street does not signal a well-performing economy. There are failed states out there with many luxury vehicles that pass through. Generating money for certain people isn't necessarily proof that the economy is doing well. It's how that money is dispersed, spread across the economy. Isaacs first reported Garcia's abusive behavior a little over a year before their son was born in March 2014. On May 21st, 2013, she reported that he destroyed her cell phone with a hammer because she did not answer his calls while she was busy in school. Garcia was questioned by police but was allowed to leave after he promised to reimburse Isaacs. While Lamkin claimed that Garcia was physically abusive to her daughter during her pregnancy, a second report was made to the police in November 2015. Garcia, who was armed with a knife, reportedly punched Isaacs in her face in front of their toddler and destroyed furniture in the apartment they shared. Officers of the Carenage police station responded to the domestic disturbance and restrained Garcia, who was instructed to pack his belongings and leave the apartment. Garcia initially complied, but attempted to return after the police left. He fled the scene after he realized that Lamkin was calling back the police. Although the couple's romantic relationship reportedly ended that night, listen to this, and let some of it be cautionary where it might be cautionary to who it might be. Although the couple's romantic relationship reportedly ended that night, Isaacs allegedly allowed him to return to the apartment early in 2017 after he was shot 4 times. What? An abusive man threatening to kill you and trying to enact that threat. You would let him return to you and your child's life after he is shot? Isaacs allegedly allowed him to return to the apartment in early 2017 after he was shot 4 times. Garcia was asked to leave several months later after his violent conduct resumed. Unsurprisingly. We're getting to that part, Ronnie, because this wasn't where the murder happened. He was asked to leave again after the abuse resumed. Unsurprisingly. In 2017, Isaacs made Another report to the police after Garcia broke into the apartment while she was sleeping and attacked her with a knife. Garcia reportedly threatened to kill Isaacs and her relatives if she did not agree to rekindle their relationship. Lampkin claimed that he only left after her husband intervened and subdued Garcia. She claimed that although the police were contacted, they did not respond, as there was no vehicle at the police station. When Isaacs and Lampkin went to the police station the following day, they were told they would be contacted by an investigator. After Isaacs was killed, the PCA launched an investigation into the officer, who gave the assurance and disciplinary proceedings were recommended. However, none were preferred by the Commissioner of Police. Isaacs made her final report to the police one day before she was murdered on December 16, 2017. She claimed that Garcia attacked her outside her workplace. Garcia was warned by a police officer who advised Isaacs to seek a protection order. Almost 24 hours later, Isaacs was found lying on the road outside a hotel at Hague Street in Carnage. She had been shot in both her legs and head. She eventually succumbed to her injuries while receiving treatment at hospital, but not before identifying Garcia as her attacker. Police officers attempted to detain Garcia, but he committed suicide while they were trying to enter his apartment. Well, it's not one time they couldn't reach promptly. It's one time they couldn't reach. Then after the report was made, no one contacted them and they were ignored. Now, I am not sure if this is a case of lack of resources, as is common in Trinidad and Tobago, lack of willpower, as is common, and the police just did not want to do it. Or if it's one of those cases where the police say, boy, them is always being bacchanal. Who is that? Them too? But I'm always fighting, boy. Because that also happens. If she was murdered in 2017, and the relationship started in 2011, and they are from Carnage, there is a possibility that in the period, because it has been highlighted, there were multiple reports. It was known this is a feisty relationship. If the police were familiar with the fact that they went to that house before, and then after they went there and kicked him out, they saw him there again with her loved up. In some police's estimation, that means, well, that is their business. From now on, we ignore that. Now, here's the thing. I could understand what the judge is saying, because I don't think it's the police's job to say a criminal activity is going on here, and because it's common, we ignore it. I actually don't think that's their job. Their job is to respond every single time the boy cries wolf. The woman take back she's stupid partner, and he beating her up again for the 10th time. This is going to be the 10th time you go down by that house and separate the people. Because the police job isn't the therapist. They aren't the psychologist. They aren't the marriage counselor. They aren't the pastor. It's not sticking on my side, Issa, so I'm not sure. They aren't the pastor. They aren't the parents. They aren't the friends and family to advise in the relationship. They are law enforcement. Their job is to enforce the law. So the only real question to the police is a law being broken? Okay, a law is being broken. We go there, we enforce the law. I could agree with that. That, as annoying as it seems, because the social prescription to this is different to me than the law enforcement prescription. But if resources low, why give it to people wasting time? Well, she was not wasting time, was she? She wasn't wasting time. They were in a toxic relationship, but it wasn't time wasting. Her life actually was in danger. So it wasn't time wasting. She was murdered the day after she made the report. That's proof that it wasn't wasting time. She was actually in danger. And as annoying as it is that this woman gone back with this bad man that beating she up, by your gosh, it's your job. That is your job. A doctor, somebody is eating themselves to death. They have diabetes, they have heart problems, they have hypertension, they had a stroke last year. Half of the body ain't really functioning too good, but the half that working alright, they dragging it to the shop to buy a Cokes, to wash down the KFC and everything else they shouldn't be eating. If they end up in an emergency and end up in the hospital, the judge isn't to watch you and say, well, doubles do this to you, you had to die. King David says, however, she had a part to play in her demise, but I also understand the judge's position. I agree 100%. And here's the thing. Maybe it should serve as a lesson, Ronnie's will said. Well, it does, because at the end of the day, not to sound callous, but she did die. She paid the consequence. So it's not like we're trying to undo the consequence. She paid the consequence. The ultimate consequence was paid. And I hope that that could be a lesson, as you said, to other people out there, that you have a part to play if you want to protect yourself. You could hope that your mother sues the police after you're dead, but that's a bad hope to hope for. The mother also said it. The mother said she would wish that her daughter was still here. All the lawsuit, they didn't grant a figure in compensation yet. But even if she gets 10 million, I am pretty sure, I'd hope that she would prefer her daughter be here. The mother of her grandchild. And as I said, the social prescription is different from the law enforcement prescription. The social prescription has some accountability to look for. Even in the mother, I'm talking socially, because I think in society, the idea of shame and such things have gone too far. We need some more of it. And I think some accountability needs to be shared all around in the social side. The boy's parents for raising a monster. The girl's parents. Maybe something more could have been done to not allow a 6-year toxic relationship to go on and a child to be entered into it too. Mother of woman abused murdered in 2017. Police must take their jobs seriously. Tot Lampkin gushed as she spoke about her 10-year-old grandson Caden, his love for drawing and his dedication to his schoolwork. She said he would like to become a doctor. However, the joy in her voice was underscored by grief and sorrow of her murdered daughter. This article basically goes on to say basically that she would have loved to have her daughter back. Above everything, Lampkin says she hopes the judgment sends a strong and clear message to the police that they need to take their job seriously, saying their intervention can mean the difference between life and death for a person. Not all police are bad, but that one officer who doesn't do his job can be the cause of another family's pain and grief. It's not my daughter alone who has gone through this. There are a number of women still dying at the hands of abusive men, and nothing is being done. Now, I do believe that it's the police job to stop crime and enforce the law. Abu Friday says socially, if one of her relatives had put an end to him, would they be wrong? Socially, no. And I don't think they would have faced consequence for this. Imagine this story in Trinidad and Tobago, in the Trinidad and Tobago context. An older man with a criminal history, because very likely the man did, he was shot. An older man with a criminal history beating up a UE student who has a child for him. And an uncle stepped in and defended the woman, resulting in the man's death. You think they're going to prosecute the uncle? Not in Trinidad. King David says sometimes the more the parents advise against dating someone, the children make their own decisions. King David, I don't believe that. I think when that happens, that's after parents have already failed at some duties, personally. That's my personal belief. Because you look at certain cultures and certain families, they seem very capable to get their children to do what they like. Nearly every life I talk about this. It constantly bothers me that the communities that could least afford it seem to convince themselves that they are unable to train their children to do what they want them to do. The communities that are already far advanced and doing well, they know that they could train their children to do what they want them to do, and they keep doing it. They have done it for centuries. But some of the communities and cultures and little pockets of people all around the world who are doing horribly already, who could really do with getting their next generation on track, they are always the ones to throw their hands up and say, you make the child but you don't make the mind. Isaho says there's really some women already rescuing. We need more safe houses for them. Yeah, here's the thing with like safe houses. The thing with many of those abusers is this isn't an excuse for the abuser. At the end of the day, the abuser is dead. There isn't anything more I could see to do to him. What is being done to him is well being done. But there is a facilitation in a lot of those abusive cases. An advocacy group was happy about it, and they brought up another case of a woman who was murdered in the Chase Village region. The first woman death in 2019, I think it was, or something like that. And I remember it vividly. That's one that I regularly raise up because in her case, her brothers and father chased the ex out. He was abusive. They beat him up and chased him out. Ban him from the yard. I regularly speak about this one. Ban him from the yard and all the right things. And she went, invited him behind their backs, snuck him into the house where he murdered her. So, what does one do to undo something like that? Abu Friday says reasons the rich children listen is when threats of being cut off happens with friends. That's not true, Abu Friday. Again, the communities that could least afford it, they think all rich people bribe their children and that's the only reason their children listen. But we see often some ghetto families get money that they could bribe their children and the children still do rubbish and go awry. Why? It's training. Don't think that people who have good things must have cheated somewhere along the line. Well, there are exceptions all around, but a large part of it is training. People who get their children to go right, train them right. They didn't bribe them. If you think you could reason with a teenager by bribing them, you haven't met many teenagers. Oh, well, that's some. You're talking about misbehaving children. I'm talking about the fact that if you look at the performances in CXC, you're going to see certain trends. You look at, I am a teacher, don't forget that, Abu Friday. I have seen dozens upon dozens of groups of children from different backgrounds. and you can make conclusions. You can see patterns. You see people who put the effort into training their child, and people who believe, well, the child is just be how the child is, and but you, sir, you don't know how that child is, and but he real hard. No, he doesn't listen to nothing I tell him. That's one group of parents, and another group of parents are like, what's that, sir? And what he doing? What Johnny do? And they watch Johnny like, he did that. Okay, so I will deal. No, sir, don't worry. Thank you very much for telling me. Okay, sir, I will deal with that. Johnny will have that project for you by next week. Sir, that will not be. Let's go. Different parents, and different results. And then the parents with no effort watch the parents with effort and see the results and envious, thinking they must have done something underhanded to do this. No, they worked. Put in the work. Let me see if I could find that article I was talking about. If I could just browse through that one. Very interesting article. I think I found it. I found the article. Very sad. A very sad article. The person in power in a relationship has one so discombobulated they can't think on their own. What do you mean by that? Many dogs that treat how a lot of people treat their dogs, food, shelter, good. I got licks at home for getting licks in school. We know about that, then, can we know about that? King David said, I believe the relationship aspect is a little different. Alright, let's look at that and the person in power in a relationship. Well, some people don't seem to even be in power. Children tell granny after murder, we can't wake mommy. This is an article from January 2018. Accustomed to seeing her being physically abused, two sisters aged 3 and 8 did not react when a close male relative began to beat and choke their mother in a bedroom. It was when they were unable to shake David awake yesterday morning that the siblings ran to their grandmother, telling her, we can't wake mommy. This was revealed by Deborah David, who demanded that the man who has since been arrested be charged, tried, and executed for her daughter's murder. Speaking at her Limehead Road Chase Village home, she recalled the horror she felt on seeing her daughter's body on the floor in a bedroom shortly after 8 a.m. She believes the man with whom David had a relationship with several years was responsible for her murder. David said that her sons had banned the man from visiting the house about 9 months ago as he had a history of abusing her daughter. My sons told him he is not allowed to come back here, but we only get to realize today that she used to let him come over while we were sleeping. She said that her granddaughters would have been in the bedroom when their mother was killed. So you all understand, she was sneaking this man over to have relations in the bedroom with her 2 infant daughters present. Y'all understanding that, right? So yes, unfortunately, they witnessed her murder. But even more than that, what else would they have been witnessing for the previous nights that didn't involve murder? Sneaking your murderer behind the backs of your brothers who are protecting you. Imagine that. And in a case like that, in cases like that, who's responsible? Is the state responsible? Some women are their own worst enemies, King David says. Correct. Very correct. In a world where men are, like with the reality that men are the stronger sex, it's on women to ensure that you stay away from the psychopaths. There's what percentage? A very tiny percent, minority of psychopaths out there. Men are stronger than you. Yes, baby. Yes. Hat? You bring my hat for me? Why aren't you sleeping? The people will want to know why I still have you up. So let me sleep in whole day. Say good night. Our personalities are shaped by our childhood experiences and environment. Yeah, to a large degree, but we still have a lot of say in those things. We still have a lot of say in how those things actually go. Hey, on women being their their own worst enemies. On that one, good night, Kwesi Andrews. There's a very interesting story coming out of the Caribbean, the wider Caribbean region. Very, very interesting. If you all like a piece of bacchanal, you all might like this one. St. Vincent woman. You on the way out? Laters. St. Vincent woman to sue female lover after being stabbed. O Trini Hotep, a 23-year-old woman who stabbed her female lover over a sex video has been ordered to pay an EC $500 within a 1 month period time in order to avoid a 3-month prison sentence. Wait. If you stab your girlfriend, you pay 500 EC? When people tell you all that the courts are biased against men, when people tell you all that the courts are biased against men, know why they say it, eh? Just know why they say it. You think, if, God forbid, I do not want any man out there to be hurting their significant other, but you think if a man stabbed his girlfriend, he was getting her $500? Within a 1 month period to avoid a 3-month prison sentence. But the woman, Afflin Douglas, faces the possibility of further legal action after her 26-year-old lover, Rochelle Staples, is how they calling the people full government naming this thing, oh jeez, rejected the serious offences court's offer of compensation, saying that she would sue Douglas. As you heard, the virtual complainant has the privilege to sue you separately for what you have done to her. That is something that you should be prepared for in the event that she does, said the senior magistrate. Douglas had pleaded guilty to a charge that she unlawfully and maliciously wounded Stapleton on January 20th, at whose home she had been in Kingstown watching the video showing two women being intimate. The court heard that during the investigations, Douglas volunteered a statement admitting to the offense. The police said she took ownership of a 6-inch long knife that was used to stab Stapleton. The magistrate told Stapleton that he was likely to award a lower compensation amount than the court might if she sues Douglas, but that also would be a longer process. Stapleton said she would sue Douglas for compensation. Prison in St. Vincent hard, don't be fooled, lower the GDP worse the prison. I don't think the prison isn't hard, but one should be in a woman's prison, which is almost always much not as hard as male prisons. And 3 months in prison for stabbing somebody. Gush, you think you're good night, Ronnie? You think you're getting away with that? You stab a lady out there and they give you $500 or 3 months in prison? Come now, man. Come now, man.
500 to stab somebody I wanted a little bit in the life because I see it fight, my man.
Oh!
Just period things you probably could look at. If a man stab a man, it might be like 3 months or...
No, actually not. Actually not. If a man stabs a man, they will send that right up anyway, because it's not really about the victim, it's more about the perpetrator, really and true.
Right. Well, I guess I was looking at it that like strand dynamics, they probably on the same wavelength, you know, that kind of way. If a man stab a woman, he's like very much more, you know, up there than she is. So I guess that's why he'll take it a little bit more serious. But that whole case is trash, if you ask me.
But you know, that case kind of compounds the statistical thing they talk about, where they say the relationships with the highest incidence of domestic violence are same-sex female.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, like lesbian relationships are weird to me. Like, you meet on a Monday, you get married on Tuesday, you fight on Sunday, and divorce on probably Tuesday the next week.
Hey!
It's the fastest moving thing in the world.
You know, it wasn't only our former Prime Minister who got some backlash and heat on Mother's Day messages. There was one out in the States, an NFL player, and we're going to dive into some of that, Ronnie. We're going to dive into some of that, because I found it very curious, especially coming off the back of Kamala's statement, where a lot of Trini women seemed very offended that a mother would suggest they be mothers on Mother's Day. Chiefs kicker gets major backlash after dissing Taylor Swift and working women. Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker, who rarely misses on the field, fell flat on his face for dissing working women and Taylor Swift during a graduation speech at a Benedictine college over the weekend. The backlash, like the Chiefs' Super Bowl victory in February, went into overtime. The right-wing athlete, who also attacked abortion rights, homosexuality, and all manner of degenerate cultural values, at one point zeroed in on the female graduates. I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you, Butker said. Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say her life truly started when she started her vocation as a wife and as a mother. He tearfully thanked his wife for embracing one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, he said, but if you ask her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, hey, no. And y'all, that statement had women spitting angry. They wanted this man dead. They wanted him jobless, wanted him fired. And you know what's the strange thing about this, even on top of all of that? It was a Catholic school. It's a Catholic man talking to Catholic girls in a Catholic school. Well, Catholic women, sorry. In a Catholic school. So, of course, he's going to talk about Catholic values. Exactly, Gersh, is like getting vexed for a priest telling you to go confession. Exactly. RL says there's no hell like being in your 50s, no family, no children. RL, Kamala Prasad Bisesa said that, and they took her to task. How dare she warn people about loneliness as you grow older when you don't have a family? How dare you? And people were angry. There were articles written that this kicker, this NFL kicker, is trying to tell women how to live their lives. And the thing is, he never told women how to live their lives. He never said a should in this. He said he thinks that's what you're going to be most excited for. And as for his wife, that's what she finds most fulfilling. Why does that offend you? And to compound it up, they went digging. NFL kicker tells young women to be homemakers, but his mom is a scientist. Harrison Butker, who makes a fortune kicking a ball for Kansas City Chiefs, you could hear the attitude in this article, makes a fortune kicking a ball for the Kansas City Chiefs, says women are happier when they stay home, raise children, and cook meals. During his 20-minute commencement speech at Benedictine College, a liberal arts school in Atchison, Kansas, Butker complained about Biden's shared COVID information and told the young women who had just graduated that they should forget about pursuing a career and instead aspire to be broodmares. Wow. This is how offended they are by someone telling young women that they could be mothers.
It's something like a trumpet, like when they relay what Trump say. It's not very much like that. Nothing at all, man.
It went on. They are telling you they're angry. It's advice worthy of serious consideration because anyone whose main job consists of leg exercises obviously has deep insight into modern gender roles and family dynamics. She's saying, you're a dumb athlete. How dare you talk?
Shut up and dribble a ball.
Ooh.
Essentially.
However, it appears that Butker has mommy issues. His mother is Dr. Elizabeth Keller Butker, an accomplished physicist at the Emory University School of Medicine for over 30 years. Funny, he forgot to mention that during his misogynist diatribe. Misogyny means hatred of women. Is it hateful to tell young women you would enjoy being mothers? What? How is that hateful? And here's the funny thing. They see his mother as a physicist and think that makes him a hypocrite. Instead of think that it puts him in the perfect position to actually speak about this. It's like Kamala Prasad Bisesa, who was our first Attorney General. First female Attorney General, first female Prime Minister, a couple first females well, and she has a child, turns around and tells you, after I've done and accomplished all of this, I think you all should try motherhood. It would feel really good. And they are upset. How dare she? Who is her? Who is she to know?
That's definitely, that's it. Basically, a lot of people say it as, you know, you're pulling up the ladder behind you, but it's because you know you did it and you realize the view up here is really not that good, so it's your time. You
know what it is fulfills you at the end of the day. What is it that when I go home, this is what makes me feel accomplished? And, you know, I say this regularly and I'll say it again because I think It warrants repeating, because it's strange to me that what feminism has done to the modern narrative between the genders is it has basically made it that women, the only thing women can be patted on the shoulder for, can gain accomplishment for, are things that are stereotypically male. Can you imagine if there was a male movement that only congratulated men when they had a big wedding, or when they changed their child's first diaper, or when they watched their child walk, and that was the entire men's movement? They are attempting to congratulate men on only the things that are more typically feminine. Why would you do that? Like, what's the point of that? It's imagine this. I don't know how many of you know the theory of greater male variability. So the theory basically suggests that because of variation and sexual reproduction and how that works, males have greater variability. They're spread out further. So in men, you would find much more idiots and morons, but you'd also find much more geniuses because they're spread out across. While in women, you would find much fewer idiots, but also much fewer geniuses. Now, what that does is, if you tell women the only thing that makes them accomplished is when they beat men in typically male fields, you're telling women who are majority right there in the middle average that they must compete with all the extreme weirdo autistic men who are obsessed with what they're obsessed with. Like, bro, I play guitar, I teach guitar. But when I look at some of those guys who are beasts at guitar, and then you hear their history, well, I started playing at 5, and for the years from like 8 to 20, I played on average like about 5 hours a day, maybe. And when we joined the band when I was like 16, we were touring weekly, and then we had practice. Those men are obsessed. That's why they are as good as they are. And if you are telling women that y'all, in order to be successful, must reach to the top of male typical fields, they will always fail. They will always fail. That's cruel. That's wicked. Those men, Fortune 500 companies are 500. 500 only. Those are the top 500 people who could executively run a company, are the CEOs there. Personally, I think anytime you see some variance in some of those things, it tells you something. Listen, Elon Musk went into Twitter and fired 90% of the staff. They kicked a fuss when he did it because they said it was sexist, because the 90% he fired was nearly exclusively women. And Twitter running better since, in terms of advancements and upgrades. So, to me, that isn't to be an insult to women. Like, you want a bird isn't insulted by telling them they can't swim unless you're a puffin or a penguin or something like that. It's just a different role. And the interesting part about that is, word up Gersh, the interesting part about that is that on the female side, a large part of the duties that are female based are so obvious and built into the woman's biology and anatomy that they aren't even questioned on the other side. So we question whether men are the best providers, even though they have the brains best suitable and the bodies best suitable. But we don't question whether women are the best child bearers, because their body is obviously suited for it. Ours is too. People, the male body is too. It's just that for some strange feminist reason, we look at those obvious differences and say, you know what, girl, go through there. I was watching I was watching this ridiculous piece of viral thread on Twitter X the other day. A woman 5'1", 120 pounds or something like that. For you all who know height and size, know that's a tiny person. She is doing some kind of taekwondo, some kind of fighting, something, spinning a stick around. And the women and the simps and the white knights went crazy. She could take any man out there. No man would dare. And you know the guys out there always have the men, the macho men who cannot allow such things to stand. They run out and men saying, "Bye, I could drink a beer and beat you." And people are offended by this. How dare you? Don't you see this well-trained? And I don't know why we deny reality like this. I think some of it is because many people have been too distant from those things. Y'all didn't grow up around the big cousins and big brothers doing things around you that obviously you couldn't do. So you just assume wrongly. The difference in strength between men and women is extreme. Then someone number 1 ranked Serena Williams lose to men ranked 300 in tennis? Yes. You see, there are many factors beside all of the obvious ones. And that's why I said, like, with the women's side, because there's a womb and there are mammary glands that get swollen with milk, it gets obvious. The purpose of the body seems much more obvious. But all for the man isn't as obvious. So you don't get to see quick twitch muscles. You don't see the quick twitch muscles. That, okay, this man is the same weight as this woman, but he has a higher ratio of muscles that function with more efficiency. He metabolizes faster, so he gets more energy in a shorter period of time. His body recovers faster. There are lots, his mind in just how it thinks and reasons works better for combat. There are so many different things that are just different. What's that, Ronnie?
A few things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I would have had the same conversation, like not the same, but I had a conversation with positive, since the woman, the thing, and basically, you know, when you meet and greet, it was like, you know, you had to get up and say something about yourself. And I was telling him, like, nobody stood up and said, you know, like, look, I am this person, my name is so, I have how many children, I am a wife, this and nothing, everybody just get up and this and the job and what they're doing for years and da. And I was saying, you know, like, I felt so bad because honestly, if it's me, you gotta hear about my children and my husband and everything, you know. But then there's the other side to it, right? Mm-hmm. Whereby we have the pearls of the world, which is like, oh gosh, I struggle so hard balancing that I don't even know what to call that. It's just ridiculous. Either you're gonna be deemed to be this kind of bossy, or you're gonna be a pearl pick me vibe.
Did you watch the video I shared in the Discord?
Nah, I ain't watched that yet.
You should take it in. And as I regularly say on the pearl topic, I think many people misaverage who she is and what she does because of the bombastic style of statements. But if you see her in longer form, she's actually much more intelligent than you might think. And
I think she is ridiculous to some degrees.
In what way? In what way?
I don't like her views on marriage per se. Like, I don't believe in divorce to be like, oh, and then she makes it seem like it's so trivial. Like, I remember she was doing an interview with somebody, I can't remember who it was, and she was saying, you know, like, women nowadays, they just want to get divorced for any old reason. Like, if the man is taking out the garbage, and as much as the people trying to explain, like, okay, you and your husband, you agree, you're going to take out the garbage. I just bring up this point. Mm-hmm. You're going to take out the garbage every night. And then he doesn't do it. And you ask him to do it. And he still doesn't do it. And then he only does it when you remind him to do it. Repeatedly. Like, it's something that can weigh on you. And then it's easy to become unattracted to somebody.
And then enough to... But here's it. I know you're cutting you there, Ronnie, but here's like where her point comes in. That is such a female thinking, and she'd insult that thinking, and that's how she speaks. She speaks differently. She would insult that thinking because that's the thinking that degrades society. So because your fickle attraction to a man over something you deem necessary at this moment, you're going to ruin societies, destroy a family, and leave children without both parents. And that's why she would say women are evil, because someone who does that is evil.
Yeah, not really, because a man would cheat because he don't have sex with him.
Okay, and is that evil? Would you class that in the same way? So wait. You'd class in the same way someone breaking up a family, leaving children without both parents because someone didn't put out garbage. You class that in the same as someone disregarding a need and someone seeking that need elsewhere. It's the same.
But it's my need a phone call. And my need for a clean house.
So your need to put out garbage is weighed as the same as a male's need for his libido satisfaction. You put that in the same? No wonder Pearl is drag earlier. No wonder. That is what the point she made. That is the point she makes. Because when she says those things, many women come to her to try to argue it, and they argue what you're arguing there. And in that argument, if I were to go hard at you, that is going to look very funny on a viral clip. That someone is saying, well, he didn't put out the garbage, so I destroy homes, and, well, I will starve him of sex, and then he just has to stay starved. What? Those aren't the same thing? You find those are the same?
And okay, it may not be on the same thing. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying that it is hard, but it's easy to see where these things could come from. It comes from a lot of things coming together. It's just like an amalgamation of things happening, you know? You might say it like, oh, well, it's only garbage or whatever, but it's a lot of other things too that could add up.
And here's the point she makes and many other people make. There's nothing that is supposed to be able to come up enough for you to destroy your society. And especially when you look at the reasons they say, irreconcilable differences, no abuse or anything like that. Or when it's abuse, it's emotional abuse or something like that. That seems weak. That seems weak sauce. That seems like y'all shouldn't be in the modern world. Y'all should be evolved out of it. That's what you're going to destroy your society and civilization for?
Well, I don't believe in divorce, but that's just for me.
Exactly. And that's the point she is making, that women would say they don't believe in divorce, but then those same women would defend the women who do, and would argue with Pearl about her tone instead of argue with the women who are destroying the society.
Nah.
Who is worse? Who is worse? Her for brashly saying that you shouldn't destroy homes, or the people destroying the homes?
No, I'm not saying you should destroy homes, but I mean like, it does be a bit extreme. Come on.
I told you, I think she is bombastic, and I think she's bombastic on purpose. But I am asking you if you could point at anything that is off, or so extreme it is off. And I'm asking you that for a purpose, because she does the same thing too. So for example, she said 16-year-old girls are more attractive than some older age, and they went off on her. But she's not foolish. You know what she did? She googled the youngest age of consent in Europe, which is 16.
15 in France.
I think they raised it. So she googled it, and she knew that that was legal in places, and in those places, that's what people find attractive. There are some disturbing things about human biology that many people don't want to admit to. But that's what I'm saying. You look at that statement, another one that she said that was bombastic. 35-year-old women are less attractive than 22-year-old women. They went off.
I wouldn't argue that that's true.
So I'm waiting to hear what she says that is so off.
Most of her points, I'm not saying that she is wrong. I'm just thinking that she is overdoing. She's an over.
Well, I agree. I might not say overdo, but I already said Her style is bombastic. Andrew Tate was similar, and you lose with that too. That's why I don't do that. That's not my style. But you lose with that. So she's demonetized, I believe, on YouTube. You could only go so hard in the paint for so long before people get angry. And the reality is, she speaks about this, but there's a reality to it. Women are the majority of the consumers out there. The people you could least afford to offend are women.
Yeah, but she doing all of others, right? She doing all of this, yeah. She being the biggest pick me in the world. And nobody has picked her. Like, what is that about?
Well, for one, I think she is in a relationship, one. And two, I think what she says basically shows why it would be more difficult for her to get a good guy.
What's that?
That she puts herself in a less feminine position. She's out there. She's also very tall, a big woman. So,
Like 6 feet?
Huh?
It's like 6 feet?
6 something, somewhere up there. So finding the right prospect for her would be difficult. I don't think that's wrong, and I don't think she is a pick me. I don't find like Pearl. What's her name? I forget just Pearly Things. I don't find her content is pick me. Her content might be, some might call it misogynistic. That's easier to call. Well, she was a basketballer. It might be easier to call it misogynistic. Basketball and volleyball. It might be easier to call it misogynistic, but I don't think like her content isn't screaming men come choose me. That's not really the style.
It's like, yeah, she's one. Like, some of the things is like to get brownie points from men.
Like what?
Just, and it should, as again, I see. It's not that I disagree with what she says.
So explain the brownie points one that you find, or an example of something you find seem brownie points-ish.
I don't want to look at some of her videos again. I know I'm backing up. Just a few things I've seen from her. She just pisses me off. I used to like her. Don't get me wrong. I used to listen to her. But then she started getting a bit over the top. And I felt like it started to come down to like, I just want to be one of the boys kind of vibe I just get from, not one of the boys, but like, you know, your boyfriend have a female best friend, and she's like, well, that's nothing, and I like to be one of the boys. That kind of vibe is what I just get from her all the time.
I could guess some things that she could have said that spoke to things like that, but I still disagree. So like where you were talking about the cheating, she speaks like she fully understands that. Because she understands that that was one end.
But she's a cheater too. So I can't even cheat.
Oh, you mean she's a cheater too?
And she cheated on her boyfriend.
Anyway, the she speaks like she understands that, as in, if a man is being starved of something on the inside, she speaks as if she understands why he goes outside. Bear in mind, I am not saying this as an excuse for men cheating. But you must understand there are needs. And if you refuse to meet the need where you are the only person, you're in the design of this thing, you are the only person that can meet this need, and you're refusing to meet the need. Like, it's strange. It's strange. They developed a whole new abuse term, financial abuse, if a man refuses to give his wife enough money. But how come there's no refusal of sex abuse? No, how is refusing finances abuse? Because that's his expected role. But the other doesn't work that way. Explain that to me.
I think there is a term for that now.
No, there is not.
I've heard plenty pastors talk about.
Yes, in the church context, because biblically, Christian doctrine, there is something to say on that. But we're talking about the state, and this is where she gets into trouble also, because people that talk on the religious side talk about what should be in terms of the Christian doctrine or whichever religious doctrine they're talking about, while she is saying her speaking is about on what is. So okay, religiously you shouldn't divorce, that isn't possible, but you can't out religion the state, because You could marry a woman saying that I will not divorce because that's against our religion. And she reaches 30, 40 and says, forget that. And your religion can't keep her there, opposed to the state. And that's the point Pearl also makes. I understand her point. Now, I don't particularly watch a lot of her content anymore because many of that style of content you watch enough and you kind of watch all already. And I do find it particularly bombastic where it's purposeful, but that's the thing. That's the thing with content creation. That's why you have to be careful the kind of topics you choose for content creation. So, like, I regularly say this in live. I don't talk, generally speaking, personal stories. Like some personal thing went on with two people and it made the news. I don't like to talk about that because I know there's an entertainment factor to this. When I'm talking, my voice is projecting. I'm not talking just, I am trying to also be a bit entertaining, grip people, and I don't want to be entertaining with certain other topics. So I understand that there's some problem in general content creation and trying to be entertaining, and I agree that she's bombastic, but I still wouldn't rate her. I wouldn't put her in the same category as always. Like for me, particularly bad is that Fresh and Fit. I find Fresh and Fit to be particularly bad. I would say they are negative. Not saying all the points raised are wrong, but I'd say they are particularly bad. And but they do a similar thing. Like I saw a clip brushed by me about on that Fresh and Fit podcast, and he was saying something that all women suck. Women just suck at everything. And basically what he was trying to say is at many jobs men perform better than women, but he's purposefully saying it in a way to offend and insult women for the purpose of making content.
Yeah, because they cater to men.
They don't just cater for men. I said this probably over a year ago. You were in the live back then too, Ronnie. That if you bounce up on a man and his diet is Fresh and Fit only, baby girl, run. Because Fresh and Fit doesn't just cater to men by themselves, to men alone. It's a certain kind of man. A man who believes that the be-all and end-all for men is money and women.
And they have neither.
They have both.
What kind of woman we talking about? They have whores. Yeah.
Not only whores. Well, if you put it as a woman who would go with them, regardless of her history, is a hoe, well then all of them would be hoes. But they would get nice girls who don't have a particularly salacious history. They would get them because they have money and influence in a big city like Miami.
Miami is where the hoes live.
Not only hoes though, but they do get that. And you see, that's the reality about their content. There is some truth to it. It's like when Donald Trump said they grab them by the feline business, grab them by the kitty. And people were most upset because it seemed like he was saying he would do that. But that's not what he actually said. He said when you're rich and famous as a celebrity, women allow you to do certain things, even up to just grabbing them by their genitalia.
Which is true.
And that's the point he was making. And that's the doctrine they teach. The unfortunate thing with that doctrine is let's say they're teaching that doctrine to 3 million men. It might only work for 30 men out of those. All other 2,999,000, how much ever, all of them are just going to watch that and be angry at women.
So anyway,
Why don't?
I don't even like these other people whatever podcast. I find them and all sorts to become a bit ridiculous.
Actually, I find they moving in the other direction. I think they actually got better than they were at the start. In my opinion, they started off more along the Fresh and Fit line, where they were inviting mostly prostitutes, to come and talk and nearly insult them. Now, they have a much wider range of guests. So they invite college graduates, they invite normal online personalities, and they come and they have a discussion, a debate. That to me, they are still a whole lot better than Fresh and Fit has a very trashy vibe.
Well, from the last other times I watched them, again, I felt like what they wanted to do. And this is the problem I have with Fresh and Fit. They bring women on who are not educated and on topic to have this discussion, right? So if I don't have any kind of information on the topic and then you asking me questions about it, obviously it's easy to make me look like a fool. But you never bring one woman who actually knew anything about the topic to have a discussion, because you know that these women will turn you inside out.
Where are those women?
Have educated women who could have discussions, who could admit that, okay, yes, women may not have been blah blah blah, but then it have other places like other fields of women were very good.
Here's what I've noticed, Ronnie, on that circuit, because I watch a lot of debates. I watch an insane amount of debates. There are nearly no pro-feminist women who are willing to go and debate it.
None of the people I'm talking about would be pro-feminist.
Right. Well, then at least for whatever, they have on all those other varying female voices. They have on them. They have those varying female voices. The thing is, most of the women that are knowledgeable and willing to come and talk about it would almost always be closer to Pearl's side. That's just the reality. I have never seen a willing feminist to debate. That's why you kind of always have to catch them by surprise. Go and meet them in the street, go and meet them in a college debate, invite them on the podcast when they aren't too sure, and try and get those beliefs. And I like that. I think those podcasts did a favor for the modern generation. They allowed the modern generation to know what the zeitgeist is out there. Allow them to see that when these men talk about what they're complaining about from women out there, they're not just making this up. These are women sitting here. This is a real woman sitting here talking this level of garbage to you. Yeah, Anonymous, because no Monday lives now. We don't have Monday lives, so we live on a Saturday.
How long that is for?
What?
Monday live. No Monday live.
I don't know. A little while.
I like this Saturday. I just get my little nap in. I have all the energy new way.
Kim and Chloe, etc., setting the standards. Yeah, and I think many people, if it wasn't for those podcasts, many people wouldn't have recorded and noted the serious change in culture over the last 20 years. Women from 2000 are not women from 2024. There's a difference in behavior. And I think some of those podcasts, some of those shows allowed that to be displayed. Even for some of the negatives that they put out there, they allowed some of that to be displayed. Now, as I said, I disagree with that Fresh and Fit stuff. I've always said that. I disagree with that. Some of their observations are correct, but almost all of their prescriptions are wrong, and that's why they always find themselves in trouble. What's his name? Fresh? Wasn't Fresh in some baby mama drama kind of thing the other day or something like that? Right? Sure, they would find themselves in that. But you know, like to me, I watch those things, and I watch certain things a little deeper. And I hope this doesn't offend anyone out there, but there are certain things a little deeper than that. So people watch that and are shocked when Myron talks about that's fit, when he speaks about, you know, polygamy and having more than one. But they forget he is a Sudanese Muslim immigrant. Muslims in Sudan believe in polygamy. So, I mean, religiously, he's preaching his religion. Dandying it up with some modern talking points to make it seem like this is all about red pill, but no, that's not red pill, and that's not the solution. Dane Khan says, I prefer Candice. Candice herself, I put Candice in a similar light, just a bit more intelligent and on a different topic. She says things to be bombastic too. She says things for the clicks similarly. Are there any influencers that give relationship advice that aren't hypocritical? I might say Jordan Peterson. Like people like that. He's been married to the same woman for decades. That's a good bit of the Daily Wire crew. A good bit of the, if you're looking on that conservative side, a good bit of the Daily Wire crew give pretty sound advice, and they're married and still married with a good example. So there are some. Like, it's always amazing to me, and the young people seem to struggle a lot with that. They choose their idols horribly. You choose who you want to emulate as a man, and you choose a man that cannot hold down himself as a husband and father. Two of the main duties of a man. Well, you choose a wrong person to emulate, sir. Pulvon says polygamy usually coincides with more violent societies. Polygamy always coincides with more violent societies. Polygamy creates more violent societies. By default, you look at what polygamy is, and it's obvious it's going to create more violent societies. Now, there are some societies where polygamy works as a benefit for a limited period of time. Because if for some reason there are limited men in your society, you can understand context where there are some benefits. But from the moment generations start to go on, and you have generations with one father and multiple mothers, which is actually pretty common in human history. They say you have something like 2 times as many female ancestors than males. But when you do that, that's when the violence starts to jump in. It works in Utah. Dane Khan says, oh, you're talking culty stuff now. I don't know if I'll call that work either. I don't know if I'll call that work. Alright, people. That's all I have for now. On this edition of the Saturday Night Live, with the host still up even till the end of the live. Why are you still up, host? Alright, people. If there are no further questions or comments, I'll bid you good night. Have a good one. Host, you want to say good night? I'm telling people good night. And bye-bye. Tell the people good night. And bye-bye. Where do you wave? Bye-bye. Laters, folks. Wait, ooh, I now see there was a guest there. I'm out. Hopefully she can go to sleep now. Telling people bye-bye. Nom nom